Okay, let's get right into it. So recently, Kamala Harris was on some podcast with Charlemagne the Clown, where she was being interviewed by him, and a preacher called in and had some questions for her. Let's take a listen to that.
Solomon Kinlock Jr., I want you to meet him. He is the senior pastor of Triumph Church. Where's Reverend Kinlock?
Oh, he's here.
Come on, tell Secret Service, move out the way. It's okay. It's just the Reverend. Yeah, all right.
Hey, Reverend.
What's up, Reverend?
Madam Vice President Charlemagne,
yes,
thank
sir.
y'all for being in Detroit tonight.
Thank you.
Recently, Madam Vice President, by one of Trump's surrogates from the black faith-based community, you've been criticized by him and others for your lack of engagement to the black church. Knowing that the black church is an unrivaled place in the heart of black people, what could you speak to as it relates to a future Harris administration, how you would partner with the black church to address some of the urgent needs of the black community? Dr. King talked about the fierce urgency of right now, and as a church, Triumph Church is in that place.
Before she answers, let me just interject here for a moment. This is part of the problem right now with the black church in the first place, or churches in general, is that they already are partnered with the government. It doesn't matter if it's Democrat or Republican. Have you ever heard of 501c3? 501c3 by default makes you a partner with the government. Again, it doesn't matter if you got Republican or Democrat. It doesn't matter. And my question that I've been hammering with these two hurricanes that we just had, I know churches do rise up to the occasion on some cases, you know, when it comes to helping to take care of those that are in need and all of that. You do have some churches, but there's a whole lot more that they could be doing. And a lot of people have been saying this, and I'm talking black folks have been saying this for years. So the fact that this man, this preacher, is coming in and saying, what can the church, what can the government do, what can she do that's going to be even more than what the government is already doing? Churches have proven themselves to be an extension of government. I mean, we're in this silly, crazy season right now with, with the elections and all. You're seeing preachers on both sides of the aisle that are using their pulpit to push their favorite guy or gal. So, yes, so the churches, they may try to say that they're not have anything to do with the government, but no, they are 501c3, which means that they don't have, there's a whole lot of taxes they don't have to pay. So it's the question itself it's one that's just ridiculous in the first place. But let's go ahead and get back to what her response is to this.
So first of all, that allegation, of course, is coming from the Trump team, because they are full of mis and disinformation, because they are trying to disconnect me from the people I have worked with and that I am from, so that they can try and have some advantage in this election, because otherwise they have nothing to run on. I grew up in the black church. I grew up attending 23rd Avenue Church of God in Oakland, California.
That's church.
Yes, that is church. My pastor is Amos C. Brown of Third Baptist Church in San Francisco, California.
Yes.
I have throughout my career and as vice president and recently been actively engaged in the church and church leaders, not only so we can share in fellowship, but so we can share in what we can do together that is about supporting the community, the strength of the community, the cohesion of the community. And it is my long-standing work, and therefore my pledge going forward. I will always work closely with the church, because I understand who our church leaders are and who the congregation is. We are talking about people who are driven by faith and the ability to see what is possible. By faith, where I was raised, and I know many of us were, understanding that our God is a loving God, that our faith propels us to act in a way that is about kindness and justice and mercy, that is about lifting one another up. And let's talk about the contrast here. Donald Trump and his followers spend full time trying to suggest that the measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down, which is absolutely contrary to the church I know.
He sells Bibles, though.
Where our church and my church is about saying true leadership The measure of that is based on who you lift up. And and then he's selling $60 Bibles or tennis shoes and trying to play people as though that makes him more understanding of the black community. Come on.
Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you for the correction.
Thank you, Reverend.
And God is good.
Every day, all the time.
There you go. I had to make sure you get that right. Now,
oh, God is good. Okay, so we're going to take what something that she just said that was interesting. Number one, so she's calling out Trump on his, with the sneakers thing. I thought that was completely ridiculous. I'm talking about the whole, what Trump did with those sneakers. You know what I mean? That was kind of crazy. Okay, I've said that out the gate. Okay, but what is her answer to that? Weed? Okay, so on one side of the aisle, they're offering sneakers to black folks. On the other side, they're offering weed. Okay, so pick who you want with that one. Okay, but there's something that I want to point out, because she said something about true leadership. It's something to the effect about true leadership, and it's about lifting people up. Okay, we're going to stay right there because she mentioned her pastor, Pastor Amos C. Brown, okay, out of the Third Baptist Church. Now, one thing about him is that he's not just a pastor. He is also the president of the NAACP in San Francisco. And he was also part of the National Board of Directors and a former California Reparations Task Force member. Okay, I know that's a mouthful, but I want you to take a listen, and I'm gonna bring it on the screen. I want you to see his record on a couple of things here. Okay, so again, we're staying what she said about who you lift up. That's leadership. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So as we get into this, I want to give a big shout out to this guy here, D. Donnell in the Cali Inkwell. I want to give a shout out because he is the one that actually put this together. So big shout out to him for this. Okay, so let's read about Pastor Brown's bio here a little bit. Okay, it's right here. Under his leadership, Third Baptist Church has established a summer school program, created an after-school academic enrichment program, Back on Track, in partnership with Temple Emmanuel Congregation. The Charles A. Tindley Academy of Music sponsored more African... Wait a minute. Back up. All right, let's read this again. This part here. He says what? So he did the Charles A. Tindley Academy of Music sponsored more African refugees than any local congregation in the nation, and sponsored 80 children from Tanzania to receive heart surgery in the United States. He led the Bay Area in raising $68,000 for the Somalian relief effort in 1984. Led in founding the Black American response to the African crisis, which raised $300,000 for the Ethiopian famine crisis, and led an airlift to Ethiopia under the auspices of the National Baptist Convention. Now, notice something here. All right, all of that sounds good. Now, some of y'all listening, okay, what you gonna find now with this? Pay attention. Okay, and I also want to mention this. I almost missed this one, but I wanted to make sure I got this in here as well. This is an article that was posted in the Daily Mail. We're going to go through it because, again, this is back in March of 2023. I just want you to hear this, okay? So the title says, "Shame on You, California Reparations Task Force member is slammed as he zooms in from Kamala's tour of Ghana, where she has promised billions for Africa." All right, let's get into it. Brown 82 said that the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, which he's a member, gave lip service to reparations and noted that the city is facing a massive deficit. A member of the public who called into the meeting to offer comment addressed Brown's absence, saying, "Shame on you." The Reverend's absence came on the same day that it emerged that the bill for California's reparations bill has skyrocketed to at least $800 billion. During her historic visit to Africa, Harris promised billions of investment to the continent as she toured historic sites associated with slavery. Much of the Vice President Harris's remarks were focused on innovation and entrepreneurship, part of her effort to spotlight Africa as a place for American private sector investment. In a phone comment section that began the meeting, one angry caller accused Brown, without citing any evidence, of soliciting donations in his role with the NAACP in order to line up his retirement fund. The caller also criticized a recent $50 million donation the group received from Wells Fargo. In criticizing Brown. Wells Fargo has been widely criticized in the past for rejecting a majority of black mortgage applicants, reports Bloomberg. Now, I can get in on that one because and we can talk about that one because TD Jakes is also involved in that. Do you remember how Wells Fargo was getting hit with all of these lawsuits, and how they were rejecting loans from applications from blacks and all of that? They were getting slammed for that. And so what Wells Fargo did is said, hey, listen, we need to change it up. So let's start going after these black preachers who have influence in the community, and let's start fattening their pockets. TD Jakes was one of them. That's why he has that large housing complex thing down in Texas. And that was in part of Wells Fargo. And so now we got this other preacher right here, according to this caller, received $50 million from Wells Fargo. Okay. Dr. Brown, shame on you. Absolutely shame on you. You give us these fiery speeches only to turn around and, as Judas did Jesus, and betray us. Him being in Ghana with Kamala Harris, whose administration has done nothing to help black folks, is a symbolic gesture, another caller said. So there was another one that came in. Brown is supposed to represent black Americans. Is he representing black Americans? He is in Ghana right now, where he is supposed to be here. What is that? It's fake up in here. The speaker was heckled by another group. He turned to them and said, I'm calling you as the enemy of the people to your face. This was followed by undeterminable yelling. Okay, they were turning it up on this man. While another public speaker said, we just gave Zelensky $100 billion. He's not black. He isn't even American. Amos earlier this month made an about face on plans to pay $5 million in reparations to every black resident of San Francisco, saying he now believes the cash should go to community projects instead. But here he is in Africa trying to get them to get billions of dollars. It's all coming out now, and I'm glad for it. And this is this is the Amos C. Brown Student Fellowship to Ghana. See, these are backdoor programs that he's putting out here. So he may be doing little programs for black Americans over there, but is a backdoor for other people in other countries. You see how they work this thing? The Amos C. Brown Student Fellowship to Ghana is the first program of its kind to be powered by the NAACP in collaboration with the Mormons. Now, I have a lot of criticism for Kojic, but the Kojic Church, I don't know if you remember, their presiding bishop tried to do a backdoor work project with the Mormons, but the members, they went off on him. They said, no, we don't have nothing to do with them. They went off on him, and he did an about face and was basically just changed his mind. But here you got this preacher saying, nah, we're going to work with them. The fully funded 10-day excursion from July the 31st to August 10th will take a selected number of multicultural college students, young adults, and seminarians between the ages of 18 to 25 from the United States to Ghana for an experimental learning opportunity at no cost to the students. While there, they will be immersed in Ghanaian culture to learn about the Atlantic slave trade and to receive deep insights into their ancestral lineage. At the end of this journey, participants will be able to work together to be agents of change across the United States. Now, my question is, again, like these callers were putting out here, why can't you just do that here? If they can find billions of dollars for Ghana, why can't they do that for here? Here, these people were just barely getting $5 million. $5 million, these black Americans, that's what they were lined up to get. And he rejected it and said, no, don't give them cash. But meanwhile, he's in Africa and giving them and trying to get them to get billions of dollars. Yeah, call all these Negroes out. Call them all out. He's addressing specific needs outside of that. Meanwhile, this man is complaining about the status of black people right in his own backyard. Is he doing some things? Yeah, he's doing some things. But this man has also put from what this record is showing, a greater focus on people outside of the United States. I'm not saying you can't do anything to people to help people out outside of the United States, but for some of you who are listening right now, it does sound like I'm nitpicking. Okay, it does. I'll give you that. But I want you to continue to follow me. All right, because there's something else that's going to pop up here. Okay, so now you remember what I said earlier, that not only was he a pastor, but he was also the president of the San Francisco NAACP. All right, so take a look on your screen here. As the president of the NAACP, look at their letter here. This was March the 14th of last year, 2023. San Francisco NAACP rejects $5 million reparations payment to blacks. Okay. Calls for reparations to focus on investments and opportunities in 5 key areas at Board of Supervisors meeting on reparations today. And then here we go. The San Francisco NAACP today called upon the Board of Supervisors to reject a one-time $5 million reparations payment to blacks, but instead called upon the city to make investments in 5 key areas to atone for a history of racism, discrimination, and mistreatment. And here are the areas that he wants. So he rejected any kind of money. He said, don't give out cash to these people. Don't give out cash. When it comes to black Americans, don't give out cash to them. So here's what he said here. So he says, invest in education. Well, we know that's a bottomless pit. That's already a bottomless pit right there, because he goes on to say black students don't perform well as their peers. We need remedial programs to help our children with reading, math, and science and all that. This is a bottomless pit. People who are still out here trying to beg for the government to continue to add more and more and more and more money to the public school system. I mean, we already know that the system in of itself ain't happening. It's not happening. There's a combination of stuff. It's the system itself, but it's also what's happening at home as well. You need that as well. You need more parental involvement. There's a lot of things at work there, but just simply looking for reparations money to go back into a system that has a history of failing us, that's a failure in of itself, this proposal here. Number 2, he says economic empowerment. With President Biden's infrastructure bill, we want to see more black people get the opportunity to get jobs on the billions of dollars of infrastructure work that will be done in our community and our state. Well, if you also are pushing somebody who is for open borders, that's an impossibility. That is a total impossibility, because you got black people who are trying to secure jobs on these particular deals here. When you talk about infrastructure, what's happening is, and you can speak to a lot of people, and I'm sure some of y'all, you can even chime in the comment section if you have experience in this. I've heard from numbers of people who are saying that they're trying to get jobs, let's say in the construction area, but they can't, because at this point now you have to learn Spanish. If you don't speak Spanish, and this is here in America, there's a high probability you're not going to get hired. But these are the policies that they're pushing. So on one hand, you may be saying that, hey, listen, we need to get more black people in these infrastructure projects. But if you're also a pro open borders person, you're just you're canceling it out. That's my point. And then it goes on. He says housing. We want more housing, more public housing, more affordable housing for blacks. This should be preferential treatment for blacks to keep our people in the city, you know, and then it goes on with that one. Okay. So housing, whatever. Okay. Healthcare, same situation. You know, pouring more money into a system that's already broken. And then he mentions this Fillmore Heritage Center. There's some building downtown that they want money to go into that in lieu of giving people reparations payments. So again, just to recap, I don't have a problem if a church wants to help people, you know, in other countries and do all that stuff. If that's what you want to do, hey, go ahead and do that. And he does have, and to be honest, he does have some programs that are addressing some of the needs of people, black people around him. So we got to give credit to where credit's due. However, if you follow him all the way out, this same individual is telling the government, hey, no, don't give cash out. No, we don't want reparations like that. We want reparations to continue to pour in to these endless programs that you failed government. We want you to continue to manage it, but we just want you to, you know, to put it there, but don't dare give us any kind of reparations money. So this is what she's rolling with. And this is why Kamala Harris, even when she was pressed even recently on the whole topic of reparations, what was her response? It was, we need to study it more. Now, again, I always go back and say, if we're talking about the Jewish community, they're not looking for studies. They're looking for checks, and they get them every time. So I thought this was a really interesting thing here when she mentioned the pastor, that she said that, you know, a church that she grew up in, and like someone said in the comments that I was reading, they said that must have been a long commute from Canada. But, you know, this is where we are in this silly season. So anyway, stay tuned, because in our next video, we are going to get into, we're going to step away from this Kamala stuff and Trump stuff for a moment, but we're going to look at a much bigger picture of what's going on right now. Have you ever heard of BRICS? Okay, that's those group of nations that are coming together, and they're saying that, hey, listen, we're done with Americanism. We're done with America running everything, and us having to depend on their monetary system. But we're going to depend on our own. There is a very important meeting that's coming up in the next few days or so from the time of this recording that I know is going to turn a lot of things around. Okay. And so you're not going to want to miss that as we cover that. We're going to be uploading that video later on today. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for tuning in. You take care, and we'll be talking again.